In 1945, on Christmas night, an incident took place in West Virginia, United States, which is still vividly remembered today. A man named George Soder was celebrating Christmas with his wife, Jenny Soder, and their 10 lovely children. Every face was bright with joy, but who knew that this night was going to turn into a nightmare? A nightmare that has remained an unsolvable mystery to this day. Around 1 o'clock at night, a sudden fire broke out in the house. George and Jenny ran out with their 4 children, but the 5 children who were sleeping in the room upstairs disappeared forever. Neither their bodies nor any traces of them were found. Did they really perish in the fire, or were they kidnapped? Was this fire truly an accident, or was it planned? Viewers, this is not just a story, but a mystery that still baffles the world today. Let's try to understand every aspect of this unsolved mystery. George Soder was a hardworking Italian immigrant who strongly opposed the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. This is why he was forced to leave Italy and live in America. Speaking openly against the Italian dictator could have been dangerous for him, but he never showed fear. He ran a trucking business in America and, fortunately, owned his own house. His wife, Jenny Soder, was a dedicated housewife who took care of their children with love and discipline. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1945, the Soder children were playing with their new toys. As night fell, the 5 children upstairs went to bed. At around 1 o'clock, Jenny smelled smoke in the house. When she went to check, she discovered that a fire had broken out in the kitchen. George and Jenny rushed outside with 4 of their children, but the 5 sleeping upstairs remained inside. George tried desperately to save them. When he ran to the second-floor window, he found that his ladder was missing from its usual place. He then decided to use his coal truck to reach the window, but when he turned the ignition, the truck wouldn't start. The second truck also failed to work. People present at the scene tried calling the Fayetteville Fire Department, but they got no response. Later, when they finally managed to contact the fire chief, the fire brigade arrived. 7 hours after the incident. Everyone assumed that the fire had been an accident in which the 5 children perished. But this case was far more complicated than it seemed. The next morning, during the investigation, officials closed the case with the same conclusion, that the children had burned to death in the fire. But this explanation was difficult for many to believe. The bones of the human body do not turn to ash even at a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius. Certain bones, especially those containing calcium, including human teeth, do not burn completely even in a furnace. So how was it possible that the fire in the Soder home destroyed all traces of 5 children's bones or teeth? Later, a forensic examiner confirmed that the fire did not last long enough to reduce bones to ash. This raised serious concerns. The Soder family immediately rejected the investigation report. Authorities claimed that the fire was caused by a short circuit in the kitchen, but George Soder stated that he had recently installed new wiring, and there was no chance of faulty connections. As George recalled the events of that night, he remembered details that seemed suspicious. When he had tried to call the fire brigade, the phone line was dead. The investigation later confirmed that someone had deliberately cut the phone line from outside. A broken phone wire and a cut wire look different. The edges of a cut wire are smooth, while a broken one has jagged edges. Jenny Soder also remembered that at exactly 12:30 a.m., the phone had rung. A woman on the line was laughing loudly. Jenny assumed it was a wrong number and hung up. If the phone line was cut at 1 a.m., but a strange call came just 30 minutes earlier, it meant that the line had been cut before the fire started. That night was full of strange events. Shortly before the fire, Jenny heard something hit the roof. When she heard nothing else, she went back to sleep. Moments later, she smelled smoke. Additionally, the ladder that George usually kept in place was later found far away in a field. How did both of George's trucks, which had been working perfectly fine the day before, suddenly stop working at the exact moment of the fire? Because of all these strange occurrences, George Soder became convinced that his children had not died in the fire but had been kidnapped. But how could someone have taken them in the middle of all the chaos? When the investigation failed to provide answers, theories began to emerge. Each theory carried its own strange story. A few months before the incident, an insurance agent had visited George Soder, pressuring him to purchase home insurance. When Soder refused, the agent threatened him, saying, "You'll regret this when your house catches fire." Did someone set the fire as a distraction to abduct the children? Another theory suggested that the Italian mafia targeted George Soder because of his outspoken criticism of Mussolini. The mafia could have kidnapped his children as revenge. Some people even claimed to have seen the missing Soder children in different locations after the fire. One woman said she saw the children at a hotel with a strange couple. Others reported seeing them being taken away in a car. But there was no definitive proof. The one thing that was clear, if the children did not die in the fire, then where did they go? A year after the incident, new evidence emerged. The original claim that the fire was caused by a short circuit was proven false. A new investigation revealed that the fire had been deliberately set. A bus driver passing by that night reported seeing people throwing something like a fireball at the house. Months later, after the snow melted, a round, rubber-like object object was found near the house, later identified as a type of incendiary device called a pineapple bomb. Jenny recalled the sound she had heard moments before the fire. Perhaps that was the sound of the bomb hitting the roof. George and Jenny spent their lives searching for answers. They followed every possible lead and even built a large billboard displaying pictures of their missing children, offering a reward. About 20 years later, in the 1960s, Jenny received a mysterious letter. Inside was a photograph of a man who closely resembled her son, Louis. The letter contained little information, only vague hints. Had one of the missing children sent the letter, or was it a cruel prank? George and Jenny hired a private investigator to look into it, but they found no trace of Louis Soter. Years passed, but the mystery remained unsolved. George Soter passed away in 1969. Jenny and her surviving children continued searching for their lost family members. After George's death, Jenny never left their family home. She put up fencing around the house and built new rooms. For the rest of her life, she wore black clothing as a symbol of mourning. In 1989, after Jenny's passing, the family finally removed the old, weathered billboard, seeking information about the missing children. Did the Soter children fall victim to a tragic accident, or were they caught in a sinister conspiracy? This remains a mystery that may never be solved. I hope you enjoyed this video from InfoZem. Thank you for your kind comments. See you in the next video.